Hey everyone, I'm Emily Brady with Rustic Passion Studio, and I wanted to show you guys a fun Easter tumbler that I created. This would also just be perfect for spring or year-round. We're going to be doing a waterfall ombre on this, so the top half is going to stay spray painted. So I'm adding a little bit, and when I say little, you can see how little this is, of fairy dust mica powder. You can find that over at PDB Creative Studio. And I'm just going to mix that into the epoxy that I'm going to be using to apply my glitter. So I am using a fast set epoxy from Counterculture DIY, and this cup can be made in just like 2 days, maybe one if you start in the morning through the end. I just kind of did it in my free time. But here's the UVDTF from Swery Kim that I'm going to be using on the bottom, and the decal He Is Risen is just a white back decal from Gracefully Created, and I will link everything I used as well. So the glitter on the bottom, you can see I've gone in and I've spray painted my tumbler with the bright pink and like a white or just an off-white or something. And I'm going to spread my epoxy all over this cup to begin with. And I'm only using like a couple milliliters. I don't go too thick on the epoxy layer, even though this glitter is chunky, just because I'm not applying glitter on that top portion and I just don't want it to all drip down. So go really thin and just kind of spread it out. And the cup I'm using is a 24-ounce plump from the Tipsy Magnolia, so I have removed the bottom, and that's super easy to do. Just grab a flathead screwdriver and kind of stick it in the rim down there, and then hit it with a hammer, and it will pop right off for you. Sometimes they're a little bit stubborn, but it should work out pretty good. So we are going to fill the bottom of this tumbler in at the end of the video, but I want to make sure I get that rim completely covered, so I'm just kind of scraping some epoxy off of my hand and making sure it gets all the way down in there. Now I'm going to have this nice and smooth, and there was a little bit of popsicle stick on there I had to get off, but you can kind of see that shimmer from that mica powder, which is just like a real gold, super fine glitter almost. I'm going to give it a quick torch just since I am, again, not applying glitter on that top half, and then we're going to go in and apply our glitter on the bottom. Now, I'm using Neverland from PDB Creative Studio, and we're going to just do a nice, I'm going to start on that bottom glitter all the way around sure I get it fully coated. Once I have the white fully coated, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to tilt my tumbler. And the more you tilt it, the higher of a waterfall ombre you are going to get. The less you tilt it, obviously the glitter is not going to fall down as far. So I like to tip it up kind of high and get a nice soft ombre. And I'm going to shake the glitter down like onto where it's already applied. It will hit that glitter and it will just sprinkle down and cascade down your entire tumbler. So super pretty. Now when I was doing this, Neverland does have a lot of opals in it, so the bottom rim wasn't getting covered quite as much as I wanted to. I could have used the gold spray paint. I didn't really think about it, but white also just lets it really shine through and not be too dark of a gold. So after I get Neverland all the way on here to where I'm happy, I'm going to go in and grab Starlit glitter. It's very similar, but it's going to have a lot more golds in it than the opals. And wherever there's going to be any open spots, I will apply that on there. Once you're happy and let that cascade down as well, just so everything's nicely fully covered. And we will start to smush it down so everything's flat, because you're going to use less epoxy and less coats if it's all smoothed out and flat. Now you can do a second coat of glitter if you need to, if you feel like you can see through it too much, but I was happy with how this turned out, and I typically only do one layer of glitter on here. So I'm going to shake it all off, and then I probably should wear a glove, but I'm only touching the glitter where the glitter is and not into the epoxy, so I'm not getting anything on me. You can also use a piece of parchment paper, which works well to press this down, but mainly I'm focusing on that bottom rim, just so when I'm sanding, there's not going to be a lot of big chunks sticking up there, and just getting it nice and smooth. Now in my video, I'm not going to show you pictures of me applying my epoxy, but there's lots of good ones out there if you need the help. So I have applied 2 coats of epoxy onto this tumbler, and I have not sanded it at all yet. I'm kind of feeling it to make sure I have a nice smooth spot on the top half of this so I can apply this white cast decal. So the white cast decal, the clear part remains on the decal. After I've decided where this is going to be placed, so you really want to make sure it's nice and smooth, and you do not want to sand under it, otherwise all of those sandy marks are going to show up for you. But I am going to trim up some of this clear after I get it applied. So I kind of just look at the top edge of this and line the top edge of the decal kind of nice and straight with the top edge of the cup. I press it down in the middle, and then we're just going to lay it nice and flat. Now here's where I'm going to go in with a squeegee, and I like the ones with the felt on the side so that you're not going to scratch your decals at all, and really press out any air that's in here. If you need to, you can go in with an X-Acto knife and trim up, like poke any bubbles if you have. Even on the clear parts, if you don't squeeze out all of that air, when you get the epoxy on, you will see that. So I'm really not trying to press it down nice and good. And then there's one spot on the side where you can see like a little bubble. So I'm gonna go in and just trim it up and cut out as much clear as I can. Once I'm done trimming everything up, I am going to take this down quick and give it a quick sand. I'm kind of sanding over that chunky glitter on the bottom and making sure that bottom rim is nice and smooth and anywhere that there's bumps. Now along here at the top, you can see I just used a square sanding block and went around the top rim so you can expose a little bit of that stainless steel and have a nice smooth finish. So here's the UVDTF wrap I'm going in with. Again, this can be found over at Swear Kim Tumblers. And I'm kind of deciding where I want the butterfly to be, where like it lines up. And when I get started on laying these out, I'm going to pull back some of that clear backing and give it a trim. And then I'm going to reapply it back on there. And then I will line it up to my cup. This just helps me apply it once I am ready to get started. So I'm going to kind of offset this little butterfly from the center of this decal. And then I'm going to wrap it around the tumbler. And this had like the perfect height that I can kind of set it down on the table to tap it to make sure it's nice and straight. Once I get it where I like it, then I will lay it down and I'm going to hinge off the back of that piece that we cut. So I'll pull that off and then we can lay it on. Once that is on, then it's no longer going to move and it's going to be lined up right where we wanted it. So lay that down and then you can turn it and then you can start peeling off your backing. And as you go, you want to press these down nice and hard to make sure that they're going to stay to your cup. I also find that when I sand it, I feel like it works out a little bit better for me and it's not going to, that transfer sheet can be so sticky and if you don't wait long enough for your epoxy to cure, you can almost peel it off of your cup. So I feel like sanding helps that sometimes. And I'm going to wrap it all the way around. When I get to the other side, I want to press this down to make sure it's on there nice and good, especially all these little pink splatters on there. And I'm going to peel up that cover sheet. This is different than that white decal and the cover will come off. And that's just because when I lay the end on, I don't want it to adhere to the cover and not the cup itself, if that makes any sense. Now I'm going to go around the cup. And on the very bottom where the cup starts to curve inward, you really want to make sure it's pressed down nice and good, or you could start to peel it up. If anything does peel up, just lay it back down flat and it should line up perfectly with your design. Press it on and then you are good to go. So with this, we are going to be epoxying over our UVDTF so we can add more things to it. Like typically you're not going to add just regular vinyl onto these because that's not as permanent. So after I get this all on here, I'm going to add some gold pinstriping. And I already have my pinstripes pre-cut, but I believe the size I'm using is around a 0.14 if you're going to cut this on your Cricut or Silhouette, or you could also use some of that vinyl striping tape as well. So I'm just going to make sure I get this nice and straight around here. I do pull it pretty taut just to make sure it's going to kind of stretch and adhere and it's not going to have any gapping or bubbles in there. Once I get back to where I started, I will just trim it up and be done with that. And then I'm going to go on to the top. I love when the top of a the top of the tumbler has like a gold rim on it. I just feel, I don't know, I just love them. It makes me happy when I see it. So I'm using this a Deco Color Premium pen. These are my favorite golds because they're like, they look the most like a gold leaf. It's not like that bronzy gold. And I'm just going to put it around the rim. So I messed up here, but I'm just going to grab some alcohol and it should wipe right off. And then I can go back into putting this around the top. So basically you can set your marker right on the rim in the same spot every time and it's going to do a perfect width around your cup. My marker is starting to run out, so I had to take it off a couple of times to pump some of the fluid paint out and go back on it. But you want to make sure you get this in one go. Once it starts to dry, when you try to go back over it, it is going to kind of peel it up. So just get it on there once and you should be all good. Now again, I'm not going to show you epoxying my tumbler. So when this is all done, I'm going to give it a quick spray with a triple thick or just a clear gloss spray paint, just because I don't want to go in with matte first and my sanding marks look sanded. So I'm going to give it a clear gloss spray paint coat and then I'm going to go in with a clear matte after that dries, just so my epoxy is not going to repel anything. Usually when you can't sand the entire tumbler, you want to spray something on there to adhere the epoxy. So now that my entire tumbler is epoxied again, there's a couple little bumps up here, but I'm going to do another layer of epoxy, so I was kind of just scratching some of those off with the X-Acto knife. But now we are going to go in and do the bottom, and I love doing these unique bottoms. I'm going to first paint the center with this light pink color from Counterculture. These are the Papa Color paints, and this is going to take a couple of coats just since it's smooth down there. It's going to kind of repel, and I just want it to be a pretty soft pink so I can put it like an opal glitter over top of it. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush and spread that around. The first bit I got out wasn't kind of watery, so I took it off and put some new paint on there. And then I'm going to use my heat gun just to kind of quickly dry that so we can speed up the process a little bit. Now while that finishes drying a little bit, I wanted to show you the Tumbler tags I use on the bottom. I also like to use this Deco Color pen. I believe I found it at PDB Creative Studio with my glitter. And the tag can be found over at Mizzy's Doodles. And this pen works great because it has a lot of flow to it. And I'll kind of show you here. But I'm going to go on the bottom in the engraving to get the black outline in there. And that'll kind of show up then when you put it on the bottom. So unfortunately, I had some issues with this one and I ended up breaking it, and I went in with another one and I kind of looked at my cup and there's not a lot of black on it, so I actually just left it engraved because whatever color glitter you have is going to kind of shine through. Now this is going to be a whiter, softer color, but I just really like the look of it. However, if you are going to put black on the bottom of yours, I like to do that right away, and I probably should have done it first just so that that is completely dry before you stick it into the epoxy. So then you guys saw I went in and did a second layer of that paint on there. And now I'm going to let that dry while I mix up, again, more fast set. And I'm going to pour that into the bottom. I'm mixing up, I think, 20 milliliters. Really, I'm only going to need like 10. But again, I just kind of like to mix a little bit more than what I need. And once I get this all mixed up, I'm going to split it into 2 cups so I can do that outer rim one color and the inner rim in a second color. So here you can see my oops, I was pressing down the back to make sure it was dry, and I pressed too hard on like a silicone mat. So I cracked it in half. So whatever, we're going to get out the new one. Here you can see that engraving. You can still read it just fine, and I'm going to use it just like that. So I've got my second little mixing cup out here, and I'm pouring about 10 milliliters into this one. You're going to need more for the center than you need for the outer ring. And now I'm going to go in with my hot stuff. This is really fun glitter, and I just... I matched it to the spray paint on the top half of the cup, and it was like a perfect match. So that's the one I went with. So I'm going to pour enough glitter in here. You can see it's way too thin. I like them to be pretty thick so that the glitter shines through, and I'm not going to just see like the ugly white inside of the rim of that tumbler. This is a metallic glitter, so it's not going to be opal or see-through at all. So I'm going to mix that up. Now I still want it to be thick, but I still need it to flow because I'm going to pour it around this tiny little rim. I could warm it up a little bit to like smooth it out, but I've done this quite a few times. So once I get it started, I'm just going to go in a nice circle and spread that around. Now when I do epoxy my whole cup, I like to put some epoxy on the bottom to kind of fill it in. Then you need less glitter and epoxy when you're doing this at the end. So I'm going to put that all in there, give it a quick torch to help pop the bubbles and make it move a little bit better, and kind of even it out just so it's going to fill the whole bottom and be nice and smooth. If you get anything inside of the rim at this time, you can kind of wipe it out. You just don't want the two colors to be mixing together. So once that one is all in there, I can go in and mix the other cup. I'm going to be using Firefly, and I'm using the extra fine cut just so it's a nice smooth baby pink finish. Again, I'm going to pour quite a bit of the glitter in there, and since this is a fine cut, you're going to be able to use a little bit more and just give that a good mix so everything is nice and coated. And then I'm going to pour it into the center. And again, you don't want to fill this up too full that it's going to touch your other glitter and start blending. So just start with a little bit and then work your way around. You're also going to be putting that tumbler tag in there, which is going to take up space and push the epoxy up, and you don't want your epoxy to go over your little tag. So I pour in some, and then I'm just using my popsicle stick here to spread it out. And I like to just make sure it's all the way to the edges of that paint. And then once I'm happy with that, pull out any glitter pieces that got in the way, give it a quick torch again for the bubbles, and then you can go ahead and place your tumbler tag on there. I like to kind of try to place it so the words are straight with the front of your cup. So here I'm looking at where my decal is so I can line it up. And then I'm just going to plop it down right on there. Once I get it where I like it, I'll push it down a little bit so it's on the bottom. And then you can center it, use a popsicle stick or your X-Acto knife or anything like that to move it around. And then it was a little shallow, so I do add a little bit more glitter on the top and the bottom. And then torch it, and then just let this sit for that hour so that it will all harden up. Now once you're all done, you can go in, and the cup should be all No, I had not sanded it yet. So after this is all dry, I am going to go in and sand my whole tumbler so that I can do my final coat of epoxy. Do not sand the bottom here so you don't scratch your tag or anything like that. But the fast set does have a strong odor. So on my last layer of epoxy, I'm going to be going in with my artist resin from Counterculture. That's my favorite one to finish things up with. And that takes 3 days to dry. And here you can see the final results of this. Super pretty. And I love that gold rim on the top. Kind of flows with the gold rim on the bottom. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you love it.